Okay, finishing up that, we're finishing up Sif Zion, where the Rebbe is explaining to us the need for tefillah, meaning the need for a avodah from below. Right? That if the revelation comes only from above, so the revelation affects the below to the extent that the below acts in accordance with the state of the revelation, but doesn't change the reality of the below. Right? Now, the mashal we brought was Yetzias Mitzrayim. Right? Obviously, the Jews were in a state of inspiration when they saw all of these incredible miracles. But, anybody change? Right? Okay, bring it closer to home. Thursday we saw unbelievable miracles. Friday, that's all anybody was talking about. Anybody here change their relationship with God because of that? No. Nothing changed. Were you inspired by it was miraculous. What happened on Thursday night was miraculous. It was unbelievable. Okay. It's cool. Talk about it in the mikveh for a day, and then So unless the lamata becomes a kli for it, which is a voida from below, and that's the tefillah l'meisha, so then as powerful as the light from above might be, and as Matt, I don't know how long anybody's been here, right? But I mean, the previous time they sent missiles to us, so they sent like hundreds and hundreds at a time, and nothing happened. Pashut, nothing. It was absolutely miraculous, right? Not that the last night, unfortunately, 3 more people were killed. Right? Nothing. Not a scratch. The buildings not destroyed. Nothing. It was unbelievable, incredible. And people talked about it, and then they after Thursday night sensing on Israeli television. So there was a guy, one of the channels that's revolutionized the country. Actually, it's called Channel 14. So it actually is pro-Jewish, pro-Israeli, pro everything that might be healthy in the world. So, which is the only, it's, we all know what the media is about, right? So, Israelis never really got the news. They only got one half of the news because there wasn't an alternative. In America, if there was nothing but CNN and MSNBC, so then there would be a pretty big hole in people's understanding as to what's going on in the country. Because they won't report things they don't want to report. So that's how it was here. That was all there was. So, but it's not, there's a lot of film people who work there, but it's not a film station per se. So one of the guys there, completely shaved head, shaved, seriously shaved. You could check your tefillin in this guy's head. He was really, and he's got a little earring. And he was talking about what was going on Thursday night, and he said, sometimes when the miracles are so obvious, you have to say thanks. So he puts on a yarmulke and says, Mizmor L'Seidah, as he's busy giving the news. So, okay, unbelievable things. How many people change as a result? Because it's all coming from above. And unless the work comes from below, nothing happens. The only person who can change me is me. God can do all sorts of things to arouse in me a desire to change, but the change comes from me. That's the only place it'll come from. Okay. So, that's why we saw yesterday that it has to be tefillah l'David. It has to come from below. Even though it's Gagilui of Atzmas at Ein Sof, and the reason that Moshe can do that is because he's the Usher and he knows what that is. And as we said on Thursday, the fact that Moshe knows what it is means that he teaches us also, so you and I also know what that is. That's what we're learning in this mimer. So if you and I were to ask for something, that's what we'd ask for, because we've been educated to realize that that's what you should ask for. Okay, that being said, if it's only asking that it come from above, so it's not going to affect the below. So therefore it's tefillah l'Moshe. That's what we saw. All right? And if you look at, let's just start from the last word on the second last line on the previous page, even though we got over to Shin Chaf Aleph. Hadi b'negela malchus, if the revelation of Atzmus or Ein Sof, that level of light that's beyond Tzimtzum, if that's revealed below, so then this new reality that's brought about below is completely a function of the light. Aval, Baharis, or Benegel, Malchus. But relative to Malchus, relative to the below, the reality below, the world, it's not a true reality of binyan hadayat. Why? Mikevin shemitzad Malchus, in terms of the below, efshar yistalak mimena haor. In terms of the kli, so the kli is in a place where the or could leave it again. The or is a level of or that won't leave. Okay, but that's mitzad the or, not mitzad the kli. That's in terms of the light, not in terms of the vessel. And what's the ultimate purpose? That the vessel itself should be a vessel of binyan hadayat. Okay, so how do you do that? That's the avoided below. V'amiti sinyan the binyan hadayat. The true reality of binyan hadayat. Hu keshamshachas gilu zeh b'malchus is when this drawing down of this incredibly powerful light into Malchus, who leibak mitzad l'maylo, not only mitzad the reality above, elegam mitzad Malchus, but also in terms of the reality below. And we saw footnote 49, that amazing footnote. That's the last thing we saw yesterday, where the Rebbe says, and that's why the usher adds v'hi shelcha, because the etzem etzias of it. This is what this last 10 minutes of yesterday's shiur. The etzem etzias of the lamata is that it is truly the kli for the revelation of the highest level of God, and why? So we explained yesterday. What level of reality is revealed here? Existence by virtue of itself, which isn't revealed anywhere else. Go to Eilam HaYetzirah. No creature in Eilam HaYetzirah will posit that it exists by virtue of itself. It will say very clearly that it is an expression of a higher level of reality. I'm revealing a level of light that comes from beyond me, and I'm the vessel that allows for that revelation. All the more so Eilam Abriya, all the more so Eilam Atzilus, and certainly all the more so above an infinite light. Okay. The only place in all of reality where the notion of, well, there's two places, the notion of existence by virtue of itself is revealed, down here. Now, we don't exist by virtue of ourselves, but that is what we experience. Therefore, what are we revealing ultimately? Atzmus. Because what's the only thing you can say about Atzmus? It exists by virtue of itself. It has no source. You and I might experience that we have no source. We know intellectually we do, but we don't necessarily experience the existence of that source. We don't feel it pushing energy into us, and that energy surging into us and giving us. We just don't feel that. Okay. We know intellectually that's the case. But the very fact that we don't feel that is really quite astounding. That means basically we are, and the world is, a revelation of the notion of existence by virtue of itself. Well, that's exactly what it is. It's shelcha, it's you, it's yours. It's the place where the most powerful level of you can be revealed. But right now it's broken. Because the danger in having such a place is it might take that experience of existing by virtue of itself too seriously and think it really does. Right? It doesn't. None of us do. But I might take that very seriously and think my life is about me. Because after all, that's what's going on in my life. Me is making a lot of noise in there. And it certainly seems to be that I'm self-generated. I don't feel anything causing me to exist. If I'm educated right, I realize, of course, there's something causing you to exist. And if I'm educated very, very well, I'll realize that what's ultimately causing us to exist, what's the only level of godliness that could be responsible for the experience that you and I have of existence by virtue of itself? The level of God that exists by virtue of itself. Atzmus, the essence of God. And that's why Moshe says, the Rebbe said in footnote 49, She'i Shelcha. That's the whole secret of this world. And yesterday we learned about why this world looks the way it looks. What the Eibishter wants from this world. And why the Eibishter wants the Aveda Dafta to come from down here. That's why this section of the Maimer is absolutely the most fundamental principles in Chassidus. On a deeper level that I was going to explain. Up until now, what did we say? In order for the level of godliness that's revealed from above to truly affect the below, the avodah has to come from below. The avodah to draw that down has to come from below. That's what we say. We didn't say anything about the light above. The light above is the same light above. It's not affected. The light isn't affected by our Veda. What's affected? Our reality is affected by our Veda. So in the context of the equation, Malchus is affected by us. Right? There's a Medina, plainness, she chareva, yishalcha, gezor shetibane. Okay, and that in order for that to be a binyan adayah, an everlasting fixing, what the Rebbe tell us, it has to be a level of light that won't disappear. Okay, that level of light is called atzmas oreitziv. Okay, but that's not enough. It has to come from below, because if there's an imposition of atzmas oreitziv from above, so that means that level of light is revealed, and there's no question that there's a fixing of the world, but not mitzad the world, mitzad the light. The world has to be fixed. Oh, that's tefillah l'meisha. Comes from below, as opposed to teres meisha. Oh, and now the Rebbe is going to explain. Not only is there a desire of Veda bring about a higher, a greater expression in Malchus, in the below, it actually affects the light that's drawn down also. The hamshacha, the language in Chassidus, you're going to see the hamshacha is also greater. Meaning the drawing down of light is also affected positively by our Veda. Okay, let's see. Again, not the effect of it on us, the light itself. You and I can affect godly light. Why? Because God said so. He allows his light to be affected by you and I. Essentially, not anywhere near that. But God allows us that incredible merit to affect him. Shayisaran b'hamshacha, the advantage in the drawing down of light, shal yadei tfilas meisha, legave, relative to hamshacha b'derech milamayla lamata, the drawing down of the light from above below. And again, that's what we learned yesterday, the advantage of it all coming from below, that it's tefillah l'meisha, which was the question the Rebbe asked at the beginning of Zion. Who loirak ba'ofen hamshacha, not only in the way it's drawn down. In other words, it'll affect the below more. What does that mean? Shamshacha sha'al yadei tefillah tefilas meisha, the hamshacha that comes through the tefillah dafka, the avodah from below, shayeches yeser lahamata, is more relevant to the reality below because it's coming from below. Not only that, something even greater. And here the Rebbe says something that is absolutely astounding. I mean, the next 2 pages in the Maimer, just Elo, Gamba Hamshacha, also in the drawing down itself. In other words, the light itself is a greater level of light. Up until now, we said the great light is drawn down, but if there's no kli for it, so it's revealed, but it hasn't affected the below. It affects the below. The below is acting in accordance with that light, but the below hasn't changed. No, so that's come from below. If it comes from below, so the below changes, and then there's a greater revelation. But the light itself is affected by the Tam al Zeh, another unbelievably fundamental point in understanding what the world's all about. That's why this mimer is so important. It's not an easy mimer. I think you'll all agree with that. There's probably things that you're finding difficult to understand. But the ideas that the Rebbe explains in this mimer are absolutely fundamental in understanding how Chassidus looks at the world, which means how the world is. V'ainyanu, the hatam al zeh, the reason, shekol masha nivra b'sheshes yemei bereshis, that everything that was created in Sheshes Mei Bereshis Tzarech Tikkun requires fixing. Famous medrash, on which pasuk? Asher bara Elokim lasos, that God created to do. Just say Asher bara Elokim, the world that God created. Why do you have to say the world that God created to do? And what does Rashi say to do means? Litaken. The world was created in such a way that you and I have to fix it. That's the way God created the world. Why? We're going to see why in a minute. I was going to explain why, in the deepest way possible. There's a basic explanation that everybody says. The Rebbe doesn't say it here. We have to go somewhere else in the Rebbe outside. The Rebbe explains that whole idea, but he's going to just say the conclusion here. the question, of course, arises why? The Medrash brings a famous story that Transformative, the Russia, was a Roman, was arguing with Rabbi Akiva. The Transformative was the governor here, the Roman governor here, and he outlawed bris milah. Because what was his basic position? If God wanted to not to have an orla, so he could have an orla. Right? And Rabbi Akiva said to him, no. Sherbara Elokim Lasos. L'taken. And what did Rabbi Akiva say to him? So that's the difference between human beings and animals. Animals, if they want to eat, what do? They eat. They find something and they eat it. Now, they might have to catch it, but they just eat it. They eat berries, they eat grass, they eat cheetah, impala, whatever there's there, they eat it. Human beings don't work that way. Right? First they have to take it, and they have to grind it, and then they have to mix it, and then they have to bake it. There's very few things that we just take and eat. We have to prepare the food we eat. Why? Because the Eibishter didn't give us food in such a way that we just take it and eat it. The Eibishter gave us food in such a way that we have to be mitaken it, fix it. So that's the way the world works. That's what Rabbi Akiva tried to explain to this heathen Roman. That was his mashal. And he brought, but it's a mashal, it's a medrash on the pasuk, Asher bara Elokim lasos, that the Eibishter created to do, and what's to do? He created the world, so you and I should fix it. That's the way the world was created. It's where we've said it before. It's perfectly imperfect, so that it can be fixed by you and I and turned into a state of perfection. Were it any more imperfect, might be unsalvageable. But then the Eibishter knew exactly what to do. Just how much darkness to put in the world before everybody went blind and could never see light. No, you can still see light. You just have to train your eyes to see it. Okay. Shekol ma shenivra b'shesmei b'reishis tzarich tikun. Who? Ki kavanas abriya hi, the ultimate intention of the creation of the world, bishvil avedas adam. What did the Eibishter want? Our aveda. What's the type of the Eibishter? Adir b'tachtonim. Right? Dwelling place in the lower realms. What does that mean? He didn't just want a dwelling place in the lower realms. Because if he wanted a dwelling place in the lower realms, what's he able to do? So make a dwelling place in the lower realms. I understand. What's from here? Like, what do you want from me? That isn't what he wanted. He wants a dwelling place in the lower realms that's created through our Aveda. Because in Atzmos, up there in the essence of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, right? The Kadosh Baruch Hu himself. We'll talk about this more later, so I'm not going to get into it now. Kadosh Baruch Hu himself, we have to understand something. We're going to understand something about Atzmos. We'll beat each other up. Famous story of two Chassidim in Tel Aviv, very serious Chassidim, and one said there wasn't those Atzmos. What's Atzmos? I don't know what Atzmos is. So he kept asking him, what's Atzmos? What's Atzmos? What's Atzmos? So finally, after he asked him about 5 times, he said, no, Atzmos. Maybe you can say like this. And then his friend hit him on the side of the head. What, you going to tell me what Atzmos is? He just asked him 6 times. The 6th time he was going to say something, gave him a zetz. Tell me what Atzmos is? Okay, so Leis Machshava Tfisa Bechlal, that's the level of God about which the thought can't comprehend. Or Mamale thought can comprehend. Of course it can comprehend aspects of godly reality, just like the neshama fills the goof, just like your neshama fills your body, which you're aware of. You're aware you have something in there called life, and you have to call it, we call it a neshama, that's what we call it. Someone else might not call it that, okay, well, because they don't know. But what it is a neshama, fine, so we understand that. So just like the neshama fills the goof, so God fills the world. It's not hard to understand. Okay, the world has a neshama. There's a difference. This is what we're learning in Shayur Chud right now. This is what daily Tanya is all about. There's a difference between the neshama and the godly energy that vitalizes the world, because the neshama is not responsible for the existence of the goof. It's clothed in the body, but it doesn't give existence to the body. What does it give to the body? Vitality, you say. Not existence. The body exists because God created the body, but the vitality for the body comes from the neshama. Right? And we have to be able to differentiate between A and B. Okay. Whereas the world, the existence and the vitality all comes from the word of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Devar Hashem. That's what we're learning. That's a daily Tanya now. Okay. But that being said, I can still use the mashal of the neshama and the guf. That's mamale. Soivev. So I don't know what it is, but I know what it isn't. I don't know what infinite reality is. I don't have a word in any language to describe infinite reality. What does the word infinite mean? Not finite. What is it? I don't know what it is. I know what it isn't. Oh, so that's called hasoga shlilis. That's called negative understanding, meaning I understand what it isn't. Well, that's a level of understanding. Not as much as understanding what it is, but it's still a level of understanding. Okay, so relative to Sevev, infinite godly light, you and I can have some level of understanding. Relative to the essence of God, no. There's no point of reference. Infinite, no. Finite, no. Infinite, yes. Finite, yes. What do you mean? Well, he's the source of infinite and the source of finite. So is there an expression of finite in him there, so to speak? Yes. Is there an expression of infinite in him there, so to speak? Yes. Is it revealed? No. What's the difference between essential reality and revealed reality? Well, the words themselves. One state of reality is revealed and one isn't. Essential reality is not revealed. The closest you and I can come to understanding something about essential reality is your DNA. Why is your hair the color it is? You have DNA that says that's what your hair should be. Now, we can fiddle around with DNA, so that's going to, then it's no longer a shaykh atzmus, because atzmus can't be fiddled around with. But DNA is pretty close, right? I mean, it helps us. That there's some aspect of you that you can't see. Yes, now the geneticist can sit there and read the genetic code, okay? But in terms of when you look at a person, you don't see their DNA. What do you see? You see the expression of their DNA. The red hair, the blonde hair, the black hair, the body type, right? Tall, short. It's all DNA. Okay. So up there in the Atzmus, the Eibishter wanted what? Ayurveda. He wanted Ayurveda. That's the most powerful thing that exists in the world. Ayurveda. Why? Because that's why the Eibishter created the world. That's the ultimate point of it all. Is that you and I should do Ayurveda. That it shouldn't be free. It's going to have to work for it. Right? Nothing you eat is free. Someone had to find it and cook it and change, right? Okay. You don't take raw wheat kernels and chew on them. Right? Now, you might be able to do that if you're in the field and you want to have a good time, but bottom line, what do? Well, you grind it and you mix it with water and you bake it. It's one of the things the Eibishter taught on Rishon. It's how to make bread. So he wouldn't starve to death. Right? Also taught him about light, how to make light. When did he teach him about light? Motzei Shabbos. Why? Because in the Chumash it does not say V'yi erev, v'yi baker, yom shvi'i. It doesn't say there was night and day on the seventh day, because it was only day. There was no darkness on the seventh day of creation. The first Shabbos was light the whole time. It was the second day of Nisan, according to the position that the world was created in Nisan. Lubavitch has always mentioned that because that's Rebbe Shab's word. But it doesn't say V'yi erev v'yi baker yom shvi'i. So there was no erev. The light of Yom Shishi just continued for 36 hours. And then at the end of that day, it got dark. So now they were in trouble. Now what do? So the Eibishter taught them how to make fire. Therefore, what do you do every Motzei Shabbos? Make the bracha, fire. Why? Because it was given to us Motzei Shabbos. It was light the whole day. Interesting, right? Doesn't say we baker. There's no error. Why don't we say it was dark the whole time? Why light? Well, because the day before it was light, right? It came. When did Shabbos come? Shabbos comes. When does Thursday come? When does Yom Chamishi come? Out of Yom Revi'i. Which part of Yom Revi'i? The light part of Yom Revi'i, not the dark part of Yom Revi'i. Right? At the end of today's light, it's going to get dark, and then we'll know it's now Yom Shlishi. Okay, what if it doesn't get dark? But I guess we're still in Yom Sheni. Okay, well that didn't happen there. It was clear. The Rebbe just said, no, now it's Shabbos, but it didn't get dark. It got dark. Okay, so the Rebbe created the world to fix it. Why? Because the whole purpose of the world is our Avodah. V'lochein, therefore, nivra olam ba'ofen, the world was created in such a way, shetikune, its fixing yel de Avedas Adam will be through our Avodah. Shal yedei ze nase Adam, now the Rebbe says an amazing thing. Shal yedei ze nase Adam shutaf l'kadosh Baruch Hu b'maisa bereshis. Becomes a partner of a Kadosh Baruch Hu in maisa bereshis. So now, that's not usually the reason given why you and I have to do avodah in order to get bounty from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What's usually the reason? We learned the Gemara. Some of us. 3 of us in this room learned the Gemara. Explaining the Tanakama who says that if you're watching someone's fruit and it's rotting, so you're not allowed to sell it. What were the 2 reasons? I really want one of them. No, I'm looking to my left because there's 2 people in this room who learned that Gemara. It's hard to remember all these things. What do I know? But we're usually pretty good at this. You ask me questions from these Gemaras all the time.
You don't know that he wants to sell it? That he doesn't. You don't know if he wants your hand sent on it or something like that?
Why? We gave a rule. Adam reitza b'kav shalem itisha kavin shel chavera. A person wants one of his more than 9 of someone else's. Right? If I work to grow something, etc., so I'd rather have a little bit of that than a lot of your stuff which I didn't work for. And what's the basis of that? Something called, we talked about this when we were learning it, and it might be that this is disappearing in terms of the nature of people, which would really be an interesting idea. What's called Nahama de Kisufa, bread of embarrassment. We like working for things. We don't like getting things for free. Now, if you were to read the newspapers, you might think that that's not true anymore. But healthy human behavior is humans who want to be productive and produce things that are theirs. And they get much more hana, they get much more benefit and much more pleasure, tainuk, from that which they did. It's a natural human trait. Okay, therefore, Chazal explain, for that reason, you and I don't want a free lunch from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because if we work for it and achieve something, we'll appreciate it much more. Nama de Kisufa. I'll be embarrassed. The average gives me everything. So the statistic is everything. Again, I'm not sure whether this statistic still holds. It'd be interesting to know. But I mean, if Izzy were here, I could say the 2 of us, but I'm the only one who's over the hill here. So, but when you're over the hill, you start picking up speed. So you're going downhill, you start to pick up speed. You're going fast, man. So the word used for someone rich in America 50, 60 years ago was Rockefeller. You're a Rockefeller. You're going to be as rich as Rockefeller? That was, like today someone say be as rich as Bill Gates, Elon Musk, right? Rockefeller. Now they say, these are the statistics in the Western world, it's really very interesting, that generally rich families, it lasts about 3 generations. By the 4th generation, much of it is gone. Why? Because generation 2 and 3 didn't have to work for it. So they don't. So then it disappears. right? They get lazy. I mean, the Jews in America, right? The third generation of Jews in America are lazy. The first generation were unbelievably industrious, right? Just crazy what they accomplished, coming from where they came and accomplishing what they accomplished in Gashmias. Unfortunately, it took its toll on Ruchnias, but in Gashmias, absolutely unbelievable. A very successful immigrant, you would say, right? There's no question about that. Okay, second generation, energy of the parents, unbelievable. You know, the parents worked like crazy doing whatever they were doing. My grandfather, Olav Shalom, right, came from Russia, from Toronto less, but you know, from. So 6 kids, 5 of them doctors and lawyers. First woman lawyer in Canada was his oldest daughter. First woman called to the bar in Canada. Aunt Sarah, great lady, just such a great lady. Oh, was she interesting. Unbelievable lady. Right? She'd be now, my father, well, what's today? Chaf. Today is my father's 108th birthday. Right? So I have to change the kapitel today. So he was the youngest of 6, and Sarah was probably 15, 20 years older. So she'd be 128 now. Right? So she was called to the bar over 100 years ago in Canada. First woman lawyer. Absolutely amazing lady. Used to love to go visit her and talk to her about life. Her husband passed away very, very young. She never remarried. Her husband was a communist, like a real communist, you know, like the 20s in North America, right? They were real communists. Right? So he was a communist. Right? His son, my first cousin, ran for Canadian Parliament in the richest riding in Toronto as a socialist for about 40 years. I mean, he would get 8 votes, but he would run every year on the Socialist Party. He was a professor of philosophy in the University of Toronto, never got married, walked around in a blue blazer and gray flannel pants and dirty black shoes. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, complete brilliant, but off the wall. Of course, a supporter of Palestinians already by the 60s, off the wall. But, again, very nice person, but off the wall. So that was Aunt Sarah's younger son. And Sarah, I remember I used to go visit her and she'd be saying, I want to show you something. I saw something very interesting in the book and I want to show you what it is. I can't find the book. So fine. So I'd go into her fridge to get an apple and I find on the shelf a book. So I take out the book. I say, Aunt Sarah, is this the book? Ah, that's the book. What happened? She would be walking to the fridge reading the book. She opens the fridge, puts the book down, takes out the milk, closes the fridge, and forgets the book. And then until she went back to the fridge again, she couldn't remember where she put the book. That was her. She was this crazy lady. Oh, she's amazing. Okay. So here's my grandfather and grandmother, come from Russia. My grandmother, what did she do when they got to America? Well, Jews couldn't, when in Toronto in those days, and this is the reason my father's older brother, who was a doctor, couldn't work in Toronto, because Jews weren't allowed to work in the hospitals in Toronto in the 30s. So my father's older brother had to go to America to get an internship because he couldn't work he was Jewish, couldn't work in a hospital in Toronto. So my father, a few years younger, by the time he came along, he could. So my grandmother and a bunch of friends, these old Jewish ladies from Russia who spoke English with a pretty thick accent, they gathered some money from the Jewish community and opened a Jewish hospital called Mount Sinai Hospital, which exists to this day. It just celebrated its 100th anniversary. These Jewish ladies, unbelievable people, these people, incredible. Their kids, very driven. Their kids, right? Now, obviously I'm different because my kids grew up in a completely different way, but the next generation, were they getting better marks than everybody in school? No. Who was getting better marks than them? The Chinese kids. Who is the top and the top and the top in all universities in North America now? Not Chinese from China, them too, but Chinese kids who are second generation immigrants from Hong Kong, and they're the top of the top. Why? Driven immigrants. After a few generations, why? Because if you don't have to do the work, then you don't appreciate it as much, and it just doesn't mean as much, and so you're not going to work as hard. Okay, so that's Nama de Kisufa. It's not mine. I don't really know. So okay. So where are the Rockefellers today? Unknown. There's still Rockefeller Center. I mean, there's still a place called Rockefeller Center. I assume it's not owned by the Rockefellers. Someone who has real money must have bought it out. Who was the governor of New York when I was growing up? Nelson Rockefeller. Who was the governor of Arkansas when I was growing up? Another Rockefeller. I don't remember his first name, but another Rockefeller. They were the most powerful family in America. 3 generations, they say. And it took 3 generations. Gone. It's fascinating. Because if you don't have to work for it, that's called Nama de Kisufa. In the Zohar, it's called Nama de Kisufa, bread of embarrassment. But the Rebbe asks an amazing question. This is a very, very, very famous sikha. You can learn it at some point. The sikha of Yud Aleph Nisan Tafshin Lamed Beis. That Farbrengen. The Rebbe explains this idea at length. The whole Farbrengen, a huge chunk of the Farbrengen, is explaining the idea of Asher Bara Elokim Lasos. That the Eibishter created the world in such a way that you and I have to do work in this world to bring about his revelation. Okay, to perfect the world. And that Avedas Adam is the single most important thing in the world. That's what the Eibishter really wanted. What was the taiva that the Kadosh Baruch Hu had? When the Chazal say, and a taiva for dir b'tachtonim, what was his taiva? He wanted there to be Aveda in Olam Hazeh. Avedas Adam. Amazing. Okay. Because of Nama de Kisufa. That's what we usually say. But the Rebbe asks a very, very powerful question, and the Rebbe is always the one asking these questions, and you always wonder why no one else ever asked these questions. Okay. The Rebbe asks as follows. Why is it that we have to work hard to get what we want? Because if we don't work hard, we don't appreciate it enough. So the Eibishter wants us to appreciate what we accomplish, and so he created a situation that we have to work hard for it. Who put that nature in people? So don't put that nature in people, and then they don't have to work. Why is it Adam Reitzak B'kav Shaloi Mitisha Kavi Michaveret? That's what Kahana, right? The other answer is about Truma. Why is it that because the Eibishter put that nature in you and I that I appreciate something more than I work for it. So then don't give me that nature, then I don't have to work for it, and you can give it to me for free and I'll be very, very happy. Wow. That's a pretty powerful question. So the Nama de Kisufa doesn't really explain it. It explains it from our point of view, but the Eibishter made our point of view, so don't make it that way, and we'll enjoy it, and then there won't be a need for a Veda. So what's the panemius of the reason? And this is that Sikha, Lamed, Yud Aleph Nisan Tafshin Lamed Beis. A whole Farbrengen about this Inyan. It's the place where this Inyan is explained most completely. So then why did the Eibishter create it the way he created it? So what the Rebbe says here in one line, but that whole Sikha over there, a Shutuf. We're partners with the Eibishter. How are you a partner with the Eibishter? Because you are as responsible as the Eibishter in the world looking the way it looks. For good or for bad. Right? Now, really the bad is only us. Okay, but the Eibishter created the world where that the possibility of that also exists. So there's, so to speak, his fault in that too. Okay, say it. But the good, that's what we're interested in. Why does the Eibishter want you and I to have to work so hard in order to bring about the perfection of the world? Because he wants us to be his partner in Maisa Bereshis. Wow. Which is an incredible merit. You have to be the partner of the Eibishter. But it takes hard work to be the partner of the Eibishter. There's a story of an Englishman. I heard this from Rabbi Groner. An Englishman who came to the Rebbe and said to the Rebbe he'd like the Rebbe to be his partner in business. So the Rebbe said, okay. And he said, because of the Rebbe's partnership, so then 10% of everything that the business, the Rebbe will have a 10% stake in the business. And 10% of everything that the business profits that year, I'll give to the Rebbe. And the Rebbe can, give it to whatever Mesa the Rebbe will do with it, whatever the Rebbe wants to do with it. The Rebbe didn't buy new shoes with it. Okay. So, Kaka, first year. So what it was. And he came at the end of the year, had a Chassidus with the Rebbe, and he gave the Rebbe a tenth of the profits of the company. Second year, same thing happened. The third year, he was in serious financial trouble. He worked in furs, this guy. And I'm trying to remember exactly that. He was in furs, and he was having a hard time to sell. He had a couple of $1 million worth of fur in his warehouse, and he couldn't get rid of it. So he called Rabbi Groner and said, I'm having an issue. And the Rabbi said, what's the issue? This is the issue. Could you please ask the Rebbe what I should do? So he asked the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said he should buy, I don't remember whether the first time was the bigger number or the second time was the bigger number, but I think one of them was 5 and one of them was 1. I think the first time the Rebbe said he should buy $5 million more of fur. So his problem was he had a couple of $1 million of fur in his warehouse. The last thing he needs is to buy more fur. So he didn't buy it. So he called up later, a few months later, and he asked Rabbi Groner, could he please talk to the Rebbe because nothing's moving and I need a bracha to make things move. So I think the second time the Rebbe said buy $1 million worth of fur. I don't remember whether it was 1 the first time, 5 the second, or 5 the first one, 1 the second. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. He didn't do that either. So then about 2 months later, his furs were a special type of fur that was unique. And somehow, I don't remember exactly all the details, but somehow, I think it was from Russia, that someone in Russia wanted specifically those furs, and so someone came and bought his whole warehouse, and he made a fortune. Now, if he had had $5 million more fur, he would have made a bigger fortune, but he didn't. He had what he had. So he sold and made a big fortune. He came to the Rebbe for Yechidus, and he gave the Rebbe 10% of the profit, which was serious because someone had just taken everything at a very high price. Basically retail, not wholesale. He sold everything. And he made a great profit. And he wanted to give the Rebbe his, so he gave the Rebbe his, and he said he wanted to go to another year. The Rebbe said no. So what do you mean no? Why did the Rebbe say no? The Rebbe said to him, if someone's afraid of difficult situations, they can't be my partner. Wow. That's like, whoa. The Rebbe, that was it. That was the end of the partnership. I'm sure the guy made money, but I'm sure he didn't make the money he made when the Rebbe was his partner. The Rebbe became the partner in the business. The Rebbe said he'll have a partnership in the business for 3 years. Not the 4th, because he got afraid of difficult times in the 3rd. So you want to be a partner of the Eberster? Can't be afraid when times get tough. Got to embrace it, like Kalman talked about yesterday so beautifully. And gave weiter. No. Situation where it's not an easy situation. As our son-in-law said as we went down with the kids last night at 4 a.m, he said, well, I must say, I feel better doing this, knowing that the reason I'm doing it is because we're wiping out Iran, right? He said, I didn't feel so good doing this when the whole thing was some Houthim in sandals throwing stuff at us from a cave. And that just annoyed me because nothing was happening. But now, at least we're here for a reason. And what we're doing is we're just tired. I think we're tired. I mean, we haven't had a full night's sleep for a while, and it makes you tired. Okay, fine. Getting up at 4 a.m. is not as nice as getting up when you usually get up. Okay, fine. Everybody went back to sleep. It was not the same. I get it. We're tired. But our taxi driver and I were talking about this morning. We're tired. The people in Petah Tikva lost their apartments. Right? Our daughter-in-law's aunt, Baruch Hashem, is not hurt. She was in a mamad, but her whole apartment's gone. Completely wiped out. Just rubble. She's fine, Baruch Hashem. She and her family, they're fine. They were in a mamad. It turns out almost everybody who died was not following the instructions of the army of where to go, that they were just staying wherever they were staying. I can't repeat it all, but on live Israeli television, there's a clip going around right now. Because only an Israeli, they're interviewing live on Israeli television some guy from Bat Yam. And I won't say what he said, but I'll just tell you the basic story. He's got no shirt on, he's got blood on his face and blood on his chest. No shirt, looks like, real, not the highest class guy you ever met. Right? And the guy is interviewing him and he says, so how were you saved? He said, well, I sit at the computer and I watch the show. When the bombs are going, I watch it on my computer. I watch all the video, on my computer. And next to the computer is a big glass window, but Hashem saved me. I had to go to the bathroom, but he doesn't say it exactly that way. He said it in a slightly different way. But I had to go to the bathroom, and when I was in the bathroom, the guy's pulling away the microphone. He says, "Okay, thank you, Moshe. Right? He's like I think the guy's gave him Moshe. He wants to move away. Thank you very, very much." And he's still talking while this guy's moving away because this is not what they want on live television. They want something. And he talks about how Hashem saved me. He had to go to the bathroom, and he talks about sitting in the bathroom, and he's pushing it. It's unbelievable. Only live Israeli television. So this has become a huge internet sensation here in Israel. Someone even made, those little children's books for Sipurei Tzadikim, stories of Tzadikim. So they have a picture of this guy with a little something on his shoulder. Sipurei Tzadikim. This is his story of the tzaddik that God saved. So now this guy, his house obviously took a hit. So we're tired, but other people are losing their houses. But what's the Abraham want? He wants work. That's what he wants. Why does he want work? Because he wants us to be a shutfim. He wants us to be his partners in Ma'aser Bereishis. That's what the Rebbe just wrote us. Nasa Adam Shutaf LaKadosh Baruch Hu Ma'aser Bereishis. And again, you want to see the home address of that? That for bringing. And that's also the reason that the creation of the worlds, Mihamalchus, through Malchus, Haisa al Yedei Tzimtzum, was through diminishing the Shenechsara Or, that it's lacking the light Mi Bechinas Malchus. What? May I? Thank you. You don't want to lose your place. Okay, we say every morning in right after the the 6 Halalukas, actually 5 because we add one on Ashrei, right? On Tilul though. So after the Halalukas, right, in between that and Yishtabach, so we say psukim from the Chemya. And what are the psukim? So we say, I'm just trying to find where's the first one? Atahu Hashem levadecha. You, Hashem, are alone. You are the one God. Ata sises hashemayim u'shmei hashemayim chol tzva'am. You made the shemayim and the heavens of the heavens, chol tzva'am, and all the hosts, haaretz, the land, chol asher land, all that's on it, hayomim, chol asher, and the seas and all that's in them. But ata mechayes kula. 3 times ata. Ata hu levadecha. Ata sisa. Ata mechaya. Say it 3 times. Now, here in a siddur, it's not written this way, but in the Tanakh, so the middle ata, asisa, es hashemayim es haaretz, the word ata is missing a hey. There's no hey in that word. It's just aleph taf. So it's as if it's really at, but we pronounce it ata. Okay? So that's what the Rebbe is referring to right now. In the siddur, it's there. In some siddurim, they actually they'll put it in a bracket, or they'll just write Ata, that you read it that way, but they won't have the Hey, because that's really how it is in Tanakh. Ata, sorry, I said that light is lacking from Malchus. Why did Creator create the world this way? Nothing that happens outside, and this is just maybe we'll probably talk about this until the end of class, and then tomorrow we'll pick up from here. Nothing that happens outside of the essence of God must be. The only thing that is absolutely necessary is God Himself, which you and I call Etzem, the essence of God. Any level of godly light only exists because God wants it to. The highest levels of godly light. Anything that happens in order to bring about the creation of the world itself, is only there because God Baruch Hu wants it there. It doesn't have to be there. Nothing is absolutely necessary. So even every part of the process of the infinite light coming down and ultimately being diminished and expressing itself in finitude, that's not necessary. That's only because the Baruch Hu wanted it to be that way. Could the Eibusher create the world in such a way that the light is not diminished and you and I would experience the revelation of godly light in the physical world? Yeah, do whatever He wants. He's completely unlimited. So when we say, well, this has to be this way, so this will look this way, that's only because, from our point of view, that's the way it works. But really, it's that way simply for one reason and one reason only. The Eibusher wanted it that way. And if the Eibusher didn't want it that way, so it would have been another way. Why are there 10 spheres? Because God wants 10 spheres. And if God wanted 12, there'd be 12. You'd probably have 12 fingers and 12 toes. And you'd probably count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, something, then say 10. One group of 12s and 0 units, right? There's no number 10, right? It's one group of 10s and 0 units. That's 10. Okay. So I guess we'd go to 12. We'd all count in base 12, right? I mean, what's the problem? Okay, but God wanted it to be base 10. And base 10 is real, because in the Torah it says, Meiser, give a tenth. And the Torah says, count the behemoths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Put him somewhere else. You have to give him to the base of Mikdash. Right? We didn't make it up. God made it up. Okay. So that's real. Why? Because that's what He wanted. And if He said every 12th one, so every 12th one. And we still call it Meiser. Because 12 would be 10. Right? 12 would be one group of 12s and 0 units. That's what we'd call it. 10. I mean, whatever. Call it S or 10. D's. Whatever we call it. It doesn't matter. What's 10 in Hungarian?
These.
D's. Okay. Fine. So the fact that the world exists by virtue of this incredible event called the diminishing of the light, that this level of malchus is a level where it doesn't reveal the light that on a certain level ultimately it's, so to speak, supposed to reveal. But I mean, really you say, well, it's not supposed to reveal. That's the whole idea, is that until you and I fix it, it's not supposed to reveal it. That's the way He did it. Ukemesha kosuv ata. You see here it's written without the hey. Ata sises hashemayim. That's the pasuk we just quoted. Ata choser hey. It's lacking the hey. And what are the hey? First of all, hey is malchus. Yud Kei Vav Kei. The hey at the end is malchus. The K are the 5, well, I think the Bible says it here. Okay, let's keep reading. The Zesh Malchus Nasis Makar Lahavas Asailamis, that which Malchus becomes the source to bring into being the worlds. Lihiot means to be. Lihavot means to cause to be, which you and I can't do. Only God can. Only God can give being to something. Nasis Makar Lahavas Asailamis. That which Malchus is the source of the worlds, Asisa Esa Shemayim Ato, lacking a hey, you Asisa Esa Shemayim. That's what created the heaven and the earth. Who Al Yedei Shenechseru Mimena, what's she lacking? Hey Partsufim, 5 countenances, 5 faces, so to speak. Ata choser hey. You're lacking hey. You're lacking the letter hey, which corresponds to 5 things. And what's that? They're called the 5 partsufim of Malchus. Okay? Now I'm going to tell you what they are. You're not going to remember it. You might write it. Hopefully you'll write it down. But it's all right. You'll have heard about it. And at some point, you'll learn a whole mimer where that's all it talks about. In the meantime, now it's just thrown out there. Okay, I'm not going to skip over it and not say what it is. It's here, so we'll say what it is. Is it something that we're dealing with right now? No, but it's always good to know things. What are the hey partsufim? Well, you're familiar probably with most of the words I'm going to say. Keser of Malchus, Chochma of Malchus, Bina of Malchus, Zoh, which are the 6 midas, right? Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Chod, and Yesod, Zoh of Malchus, and Panemius Malchus, the inner reality of Malchus. What? There's 6 in Malchus. Malchus is the 7th. Right? But it has, again, Malchus is the repository for the Or of the 6. So, when we talk about Yud, K, Vav, K is Yud, is Chochmah, K is Bina, Vav, which it's Vav for 2 reasons. 6, those are the 6 midas. Also, Vav is drawing it down. Right? To what? K, Malchus. That's the 10 spheres. Yud, K, Vav, K, the 10 spheres. Right? Okay. That's the level of Yud K where it's the source of the light that's clothed in the worlds. There's a level beyond that, which we said earlier in the Mem. So Malchus was created lacking a hey. In other words, there's certain aspects of Malchus, all of this light that ultimately Malchus is destined to reveal, it's lacking. It's not there. It's not being revealed. What's she not revealing? Keser, Chochma, Bina, Zoh, and her own Panemius, what she's really all about. Wow. So that's why the pasuk's written, Ata Sisa. That level of Ata is missing the Hey, and the Hey, again, is the Hey Partsufim of Malchus. What are the Hey Partsufim of Malchus? Who's going to say them over?
Keser, Chochma, Bina, Zoh, Panemius.
Beautiful. Pinius Malchus.
It's all of Malchus.
Beautiful. That's the hey that's missing now. Again, you won't see it in your siddur. Maybe you will. I don't know, but most of the siddurim don't have it.
Zion Hey.
Zion Aleph. See up there, Arach Anpin. Arach means long. I didn't write the word Anpin. Anpin means face. The long countenance. That's Das. Right? Das Tachte. That's Keser. The external reality of Keser. Right? What's Zeir Anpin, the small countenance, that's the 6 meters. It's called Zoh. Okay?
So that's Chagas Nehi.
Chagas Nehi. 2 more minutes and we stop. I just want to get past this so that if we stop here, we won't be able to sleep the whole night. Not because of Iranians, we'll just be bothered like what they do. Ata Chaser, hey Partsufim. What's going on? Okay. So the Eibishter created and the pasuk says, Ata sisas shemayim v'aretz. Ata without a hey. Why? Because you created the shemayim and aretz without a full revelation of all of the that Malchus is supposed to reveal, right? Okay, so that's not a difficult idea to understand, right? I might not understand all the technicalities of it. Okay, I'll learn the technicalities as time goes on. But the basic idea makes perfect sense, right? It's just, that's the world. The world is a place where godliness isn't revealed. Technically, what does that mean? Malchus is not revealing all of the light that she's destined to reveal. Those 5 levels, those 5 partsufim. Atoch Choser Hey, Dezesha Malchus Nasa Makar Lahavis Elimus. We're going over those 2 lines. That which Malchus is the source to bring into being the worlds. Asisas Shemaim, Ata, Asisas Shemaim, the middle Ata of the 3 Atas we just read in the davening we say every single day. Hu al Yedei Shenechsru Mimena Hey Partsufim. What's lacking is the Hey Partsufim. Ata Choser Hey. If you look in footnote 54, it's just interesting. HaMaimer Dibur Masku Tefillah L'Meshet Tafresh Samach. The Maimer that this whole Maimer is based on up until now, which is the Rebbe Shab's Maimer of Tafresh Samach Tefillah L'Meshet. So it's the continuation of another Maimer. Tefillah L'Meshet is a continuation of another Maimer. Ba Behemshech, it comes as a continuation. LaHaMaimer, the Maimer that the Rebbe Shab said, Kel Yaakov. The voice is the voice of Yaakov. Tafresh Samach. Right? Earlier in the book. This is the Maimer before. Right? Amud Nun Hei Velech from page 55 on. And what's that Maimer all about? Mavur Inyan At Choser Hei. That whole Maimer is about the Inyan that we just said in 2 lines here. The whole Maimer explains the Inyan of Partzufim of Malchus and what they are and how they're lacking, and therefore Malchus doesn't reveal Elokus the way it could, should, will. Right? V'yesh leimar. It's finding a place to stop. The chisaron shahaya b'malchus, this lacking that exists in Malchus. You have a Medina and she's Chareva. What's that? The Rebbe told us that's Malchus. The lacking in Malchus, shemimena nivra olam, that from her the world was created. Hu hashoresh, that's the source, vasiba, and the reason lechisaron da olam. Why does the world look the way it looks? Because Malchus, a certain level of godly reality, looks the way she looks. Now, the Eibishter orchestrated that in Malchus, and therefore that brings about a reality down here that expresses that lacking. The kol masha nivra, everything that was created, b'shesh mei bereshis, in the 6 days of creation, tzarech tikun. One more half line. Now that was all in brackets. Who? That is in order. The filling, the lacking in Malchus, will be through our Veda. So the Eibishter brought Malchus something in Olam Hazeh. Why did he do that? Because he wants us to be a shutfim in Ma'aseh Bereshis. Not Namad Kisuf is the external expression of it. The Pnimius is the Eibishter wants us to be a shutfim. Because if Namad Kisuf is the ultimate answer, what the Rabbi asks, so then don't give us that teva. Don't give us that nature that we like we get embarrassed if we get something for free. You read the newspapers, it looks like that teva's gone. Seems people like stuff for free now. No one's embarrassed. But that's an expression of an unhealthy human. It's not a healthy human state. A healthy human wants to produce things. He gets pleasure from producing things. Right? That's the way we're built. Why did the Eibishter build us that way? So we'll fix the world. And we'll be his shooter. Because he wants us to be his shooter. Wow. Amazing. Wants us to be his partner. Okay. We'll go back to tomorrow. What? The plot thickens.